today's episode, we brought on Jen Leonard, who is one of the founders of Tie and Timber Beer Company out of Springfield, Missouri. Awesome interview. Talked a lot about Jen's roots here in Colorado, her friends over at Locavore and Lock & Co. Distilling. So those guys have been on the show before. Those names are going to sound familiar. Really, really great person. Fantastic insight into craft beer across the country, especially what's going on in Missouri. And we think that you're going to enjoy it. Many, many thanks to everybody who has supported the show throughout this year because we know it's been tough. We really cannot thank you enough. So with that said, Jen Leonard, Tie and Timber Beer Company, everybody have a fantastic new year. Be safe, be well. Take care.
Just don't tell them that you know me. Shake it, sugary. Just don't tell them that you.
So,
Oh, well, that's awesome.
shout out to Chris and Jen for Snyder for that. So, just so you know, I've got some questions that I want to ask you, but for the most part, it's more you and I just having a conversation, if that's cool.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That works.
Let's begin then. Will you introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Jen Leonard. I am co-founder and executive brewer at Tie and Timber.
Okay. What is that's actually kind of a good kind of entry to this. What does executive brewer mean? Because obviously we hear like brewing operations manager or head of brewing. Yeah. What does an executive brewer mean?
So it's really interesting because I had met the owners of Blue Owl Brewery over in Austin. And we were just talking about, as owners, like, where do you go? Mm-hmm. You know, as far as I want a head brewer, because I was calling myself head brewer at the time. And he said, no, he said, well, I call myself as executive brewer because it's that mindset that you're going to grow and you're going to have a head brewer, and then they're going to have an assistant brewer. So that's kind of where the executive brewer title came in.
So it makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like an executive chef then. I mean, you could argue.
Yeah.
Okay, that you do all that.
Yeah, and as far as the master brewer title, I mean, I think that there's a lot of more qualifications that come behind that I do not have. So I've never considered or called myself a master brewer.
So I guess, knowing that you and Curtis opened up shop and you have this place, going into it, before we even get the history, what was in your brain, your personal expectation for your responsibility for Tie and Timber?
I mean, I knew for sure I was going to brew the beer going into Tie and Timber. But when we initially started, Curtis was the one that was interested in brewing beer. And he brought all the stuff home. And when I saw what he was doing, I was like, give me that. I want to try it because I love cooking. I love flavors. I love just making things. And I kind of took over the brewing aspect of it, and he's taken over he's like the brains of the whole operation. Okay. So we come together on a lot of the main decisions, but I would say he probably runs more of the day-to-day business operations, and then I run the brewery operations.
Well, I mean, you're the one who's doing you're making the nectar though that people drink.
Yes. So. Yep.
Well, what's your background? Like, how does a person like you or Curtis or how do you two get into craft beer? Like, what's that kind of entryway?
I mean, for us, I think it was just being consumers of craft beer and enjoying craft beer, but also wanting to do something outside of what we were doing before, which very similar background to Owen. We both came from information technology. Yeah. And just kind of working in the corporate world, and corporate treated us really, really well, but we wanted to do something that was a bit more fulfilling to us. And we had some certain criteria that we were looking at. We knew we wanted to do something together. We wanted to do something that was community focused, and then something that we would enjoy. So we really, our story is we really learned to brew with the prospect in mind that maybe we would open a brewery. Okay. So that's kind of where it started. And we started just brewing like crazy. I mean, after work, all weekend. I mean, we brewed and we learned a lot. started entering our beers into competitions and bringing home medals. And that's when we were like, okay, maybe there's something to this. And then we just got heads down and started working on a business plan to see what that would look like.
So what year was that you were kind of like walk us through the timeline that you started brewing, then you were winning medals? I mean, and then to the point that you went, okay, we can actually start this business. What years are we talking about?
Gosh, I'm going to say it was later 2015.
Okay.
And then we opened our brewery 2018.
Okay. So
and
what
then
was?
Now we're.
No, you're good. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say now.
No.
2020. Yeah.
2020. So you've been. So I guess in 2018 then, when you opened up, what's going on in Springfield at that time? You got Mothers, you got Springfield Brewing Company. What else is that? Just it? And you're the third, or how does?
Yes. I mean, so when we first started our research, we knew that there was, Mothers, Springfield, Brew Company. Mm-hmm. Show Me is another one that's kind of, it's smaller, it's kind of off the radar, but great beers.
Yeah.
But then, like, all of a sudden, as we were working through our business plan and pulling the trigger, we found out that there was another brewery popping up, and we're like, oh, so we met them. And then there was also another brewery that was actually in construction, Lost Signal. Yeah. And so we met with him, and it just started becoming, there was obvious that there was a market out here for craft breweries.
Yeah.
And now, when we opened, we were one of 5, if I remember correctly, and now there's 10.
That's crazy.
In Springfield.
That's wild.
So it blew up in 2 years, but we're still not. I wouldn't say we're close to being saturated yet here.
Well, let me ask you then. I mean, knowing that you two come from different parts of the country and get to Springfield, and pardon me, I should be clear that these interviews bounce around, just so you know.
Yeah.
But what makes Springfield so primed, or what makes Missouri, I guess, so primed for craft beer? Because I think we're obviously kind of spoiled out in Colorado, as you know.
Right.
But anymore, you're better off. It's easier to find craft beer in a liquor store or a grocery store almost than it is a big, mass-produced beer. So, what made Springfield, in your opinion, so prepared for this boom that is craft beer?
I think when we came here, we just saw that the market and the desire was really here. And one of the selling points for us is we were visiting and kind of exploring this idea. We were looking for land for another project, but then in the back of our minds, we were looking for property for a possible brewery to see.
Wait, what was the other project?
Work.
What was the other?
Oh gosh,
you got to tell us.
It was organic farming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again,
they go hand in hand.
Something community focused, yeah. Getting your hands dirty, and there's less expensive land out here compared to Colorado. So, and my husband is from here, so that's another aspect to know is we were looking here because we also have a lot of friends and family here. Okay. But on one of our trips, we were at Early Bird Cafe. It's a popular brunch place here, and they had like 8 to 10 taps of craft beer with not a lot of local. So we're like, this is proof to us that the desire and the market is here. The Springfieldians, they want a good quality craft beer.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the, we should do this and move forward.
I remember going to not the liquor store, but I can't remember the grocery store, one of the bigger ones down there, and just being amazed at the craft beer selection there. That was even, I got to think, that was 5 years ago. It's stuff that we couldn't find here, quite honestly. I mean, yes, in Colorado, you get Colorado craft beer, but you don't get other states. But I feel like in Springfield and even St. Louis, those bigger hubs, Kansas City in a lot of ways, you get beer from across the country, and people really appreciate it. So I totally understand kind of what you're coming from.
Yeah.
It makes total sense. So I guess what happened, I got to ask you, what happened with the organic farm?
I think that we just discovered we enjoyed beer more than organic farming. And we had talked to a lot of organic farmers, and breweries they're hard work too.
Yeah.
But organic farming, one of our goals was to be able to move on to whatever our next endeavor was and do it full time.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like everybody we talked to in the organic farming industry, they were working other jobs to supplement their income still. And that's just really, and, you know, to be fair, we didn't give it a huge chance either. We just pivoted and found something else that was more interesting and I guess realistic for our goals.
At what point did you realize, prior to winning those awards, that you made beer that people wanted to drink? I mean, obviously getting those medals matters a lot, but there had to be a point prior to that, right? Where you realized that you were brewing beer that tastes good. What was that moment for you?
Gosh, I really think that moment really wasn't until I got out to Springfield and started doing pilot brews here. We had compliments on our beer and we would do focus groups and they would taste different beers. And when I think back at those groups, you know, they're friends and family, but you know, I was on a very fast track of learning how to brew beer and what all that entailed, including off flavors. So when I look back at some of those focus groups we did and the flavors they pulled out, I still had a long way to go then.
What were they saying?
And so it was,
for example,
I think it was one beer, and it was one of our friends, and now we know we can use her for this test. And she was like, "Gosh, I just don't know, how do you get the beer to taste so buttery?" And I was like, "Oh, and you know, that's diacetyl."
Yeah.
And again, this is early on. And once we were like, oh, that's really not something that should be in the beer. And she's very sensitive to it. So it's great to know that we have friends that can pull that out. So we've never had diacetyl problems in the brewery once we went pro.
That's awesome.
But that's a, you know, again, it's when you're learning, and that was I guess getting my foundation in check and making sure that I knew the very foundation of brewing beer.
That's a really big, I mean, what you're doing, what you two do is it's not, it's obviously it's a passion. It has to be a passion if you're going to get into this. And so what got you through that kind of taste testing to opening up the brewery to those first 2 to 3 years? Like, what made you think that not only can you open a brewery, but what made you think that you can keep this going? Like, was it traffic? Was it awards? Like, what kept you feeling good about what was happening?
Yeah, I mean, so I think both Curtis and I have a personality to where when we commit to something, we are just going to really go in full force. And we also have there's a lot of pride in it and a lot of respect for quality. And again, it was just a lot of studying and learning and talking to mentors. We had mentors in Colorado, Jason and Andy from Locavore. They're huge mentors of us.
Wow,
as a matter of fact,
that's
we
crazy.
named a tank. We named a tank after, you know, because they do the Guy thing. Hey, Guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that. Yeah. So we have a tank called Guy.
Holy shit, that's crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They're great guys.
We love them. And they really helped us through a lot. From the very beginning when we came to them, saying we want to open a brewery, and I'm sure that they have a ton of people coming to them saying that. And once they saw it, I feel once they saw our dedication to it, they were like, okay, they're serious. And they opened up their brewery and their books to us and kind of guided us through some of the sticky parts of opening a brewery.
So were you living in Littleton then? I mean, were you two down?
Inglewood.
Inglewood, okay. All right. Whereabouts?
Yeah,
That's where I live. So
actually, we weren't even living, Curtis and I have been together forever, but we like our space.
Yeah, okay.
We weren't even living together for quite some time. I mean, since we moved to Springfield, it's really been the first time that we've actually like lived together.
Yeah.
So he lived in Inglewood right off of, is it 280 or
285?
I'm already forgetting Colorado.
No, you're good. 285.
285 and Sheridan. So kind of back in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I actually lived over in Platt Park.
Okay.
So Greg at Platt Park Brewery.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, he was a big help to us as well. He talked to my husband a lot, but when we opened, I had some questions and we reached out to him, and he's great at sharing
Oh,
information.
such a good. Those are all good
And
people.
that's, yeah, and that's one of the great things about being in this
Yeah.
industry is everybody wants to help everybody else.
Yeah.
But I forgot what the original question was because
No,
I,
where you live. I mean, you nailed it. You nailed it. I
yeah,
wish Jay
okay,
was
okay,
here
good.
because he actually lives off. Jay lives off 285 in Sheridan, so that's
Oh,
hilarious.
okay.
I just went over to his house, my
Yeah,
basement
yeah.
this weekend, and I had to borrow a big fan from him, but he's not around, so unfortunately. But okay, let's kind of walk back a little bit because I'm really enjoying this. What was the beer that changed everything for you then? Like, what was not your beer, but how what was the beer that you drank and when that made you think, I don't want to drink a Coors Light or a Bud Light. I want to drink, a Fat Tire. Like, what was the beer that made it for you?
I mean, it was actually Mirror Pond. That just the
Ah,
shoots.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I was at a festival and all they either had the Coors or they had IPA. And
Yeah,
at the time, I just was not crazy
yeah,
about IPA.
yeah,
But the Mirror Pond, I think, is more of a pale ale,
yeah,
and
for
that's
sure.
really what I was like. Oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
And then through time, we went to Bend, Oregon, and
Oh,
that was
okay.
probably my first like real exposure to so many breweries all at once. So
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And when I found out you can put like hibiscus and pink peppercorn in a beer, I was like, this is so cool. Like, it's awesome.
So you can kind of experiment with all different kinds of things. So that
Yeah.
makes total
Yep.
sense. Are you, sorry, are we even walking back even further? Are you from Colorado? You are, right?
I am a Colorado native.
Okay. So you grew up in
Yeah.
Denver area?
I grew up in Colorado Springs.
Okay. All right. And then you and Owen know
And
each
then
other
I kind of
from,
worked my way up to Denver.
okay. And you got a
And then
job
O
in
and I worked
IT.
together. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes total
And
sense.
that's how Owen and I got to know each other.
That's really cool.
And I knew he kind of had the whiskey thing. And
Yeah.
then I started the beer thing. And I remember coming to him and saying, hey, just so you know, I'm like going to peace out in a couple months because we're going to go do this brewery thing. And he's like, yeah, actually, I'm piecing out too. And we were two like leads of a team.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm going to piece out too and do the whiskey thing. And I was like, that's just so awesome. And we made a promise to one another right then and there that when his barrels were ready,
Yeah.
he was going to send them to me, and then I was going to put beer in them, and it's a sweet relationship.
I mean, the beer that you guys make with those barrels is from what I've heard, amazing. I need to, the next time we drive out to St. Louis, I'm gonna have to go that way and come see you in Springfield. But that's awesome. What? Okay, so let's jump now back forward a little bit. You had to move to Springfield because you and Curtis, or not had to, but right there were roots there, and you guys wanted to go back. Knowing what was going on there at that time, why the location that you selected? Like what went through your head, knowing that what was available in Springfield at that time? Why did you decide to go to that certain kind of locale?
Well, it actually was. I mean, we moved to Springfield because we secured properties to open up the brewery. So that was kind of our path. And it was one of those things where we were kind of looking around and we were seeing things, but nothing was really like jumping out to us and saying, yeah, this is the place.
Yeah.
Until someone said, hey, you might want to go check out the Roundtree neighborhood. It's a very liberal neighborhood. Everybody's really easygoing, down to earth, kind of like you guys in Colorado.
Yeah.
But it's such a coveted neighborhood but we doubt there's anything out there. So we're like, okay, we'll just go check it out and see. And when we did, there was a property with 2 buildings on it that had been vacant for a really long time.
Okay.
And so we're on Cherry and Pickwick, and there really wasn't a lot going on. There's a little bar that's called oh my goodness.
No, I can look it
I
up.
should not be
Sure.
forgetting this. My brain like totally
No, you're
my
good.
brain totally
Cherry and Pickwick,
like zipped
Springfield. No,
off
you're
me.
fine. Hey, it's 2020 still. I'm telling you. You're
Cherry
good.
Picker.
The
Yeah,
cherry
I
picker.
don't know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
happened
okay.
there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, they were kind of a sneak peek into what could be, because
Yeah.
the neighborhood loved this place, and they specialize in mostly wine, and then a little bit of craft beer, like 4 taps, I think is what they have. And they have coffee and a little bit of food, and we're like, gosh, that's really perfect. But then just looking at the street, what we could visualize is a small Pearl Street in Platt Park.
Yeah. That makes total
We're like,
sense.
I mean, this could go there. And so we inquired on the buildings and kind of got the what was going on with them. And then we thought we'd be able to go home and kind of work up a business plan and take our time. And I would say 2 weeks after our trip, we got a phone call and they said, these buildings are going for auction, so you need to make a decision now.
Okay.
So we're like, oh my gosh, like, do we want to commit to this? Like, we were kind of like freaking out of it. Like, are we sure we want to do this? Because, and what it came down to, they're great properties in a great neighborhood. And so what it came down to is we could put our bid in.
Okay. And
if we get it, it doesn't hurt to have property in a good neighborhood. And if we don't open the brewery, maybe we can do something else with it, or sit on it and sell it later. And we're like, gosh, the bid's probably not going to go through anyway. And it did. So, I mean, to me, I always feel like, I always just say, it's like the universe said, you guys, here you go, buckle up.
It's a bit serendipitous, for sure.
We're taking you for a ride. I mean, it was just amazing. And since then, I think that having the brewery open has definitely helped other investors open up things along Cherry. So we have another small venue down the street. We have a great taco shop across the street now. Some housing renovations. I mean, it's really becoming what the vision that we had, which is awesome.
So for folks who haven't been to Springfield, how close are you to the university? Like,
We're 3 blocks east of the university.
So you're pretty close. Like, I mean,
we're pretty close. You can walk.
Is that a lot of traffic that you get, just out of curiosity? Do you get a lot of students?
It depends. Actually, when we first opened up, we were getting a lot of families and people from the neighborhood.
Okay.
And then this year we built a beer garden out and back. So we kind of had, it was really rough out there. And we just decided, and this is before COVID hit, we had decided we were just going to go ahead and move forward with the project of landscaping out there and really creating a nice beer garden. And then COVID hit, and it was kind of I don't know if you call it lucky, or we just didn't know. And so we have this very large beer garden that people really enjoy coming to because it's outside and you can space out. And that's when we started seeing a lot more of the college crowd come through.
Just to have a space. They didn't have to go to some dive bar. They could come to a place with a lot of, that makes total sense. What do you do for food then, just out of curiosity?
Well, like I said, we have that great taco place across the street. And we just have a great relationship with them. So we're constantly, co-branding on social media, and, they'll give us a mention and be like, hey, we're serving this kind of taco today. Come grab a taco and go over to Tie and Timber and have a beer. And, we'll do the same thing. Recently, we also have I want to call it like a Thai fusion place.
Okay.
It's called Scully's. They recently opened up a brick and mortar. So they're there. You can get to-go food. Mm-hmm. We have, I think it's a St. Louis and Springfield staple, but it's called Emo's.
Yeah.
So it's a pizza joint.
Trust me, my wife's from St. Louis, so Emo's is just eating cardboard covered Velveeta, but it tastes good. So,
like your description, but so that's right across the street from us, and then we have like a little health place that's also there. There's a lot of options for food.
That makes total sense. That's awesome. Okay, I want to are you pressed for time? Are you good?
I'm not pressed for time.
Okay. Can you tell me and tell us and our listeners what has happened to Springfield, I guess, in the last 10 years? Because from what, I hear from our friends and I hear from you and I hear from Owen, is Springfield is a lot like an Omaha, a Des Moines. People leave Denver because, and not to say this is the case for you and Curtis, it's really expensive to live here. Unless you kind of got a place here, it's at a certain time, it's impossible. especially if you want to raise a family and all that. Is Springfield a hub like a Kansas City, a Des Moines, where people are kind of moving from the bigger, top 10 places to a place like Springfield? And are you seeing that, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing that. From what I've seen, I am Curtis would answer this question better because he is from Springfield. But what I have seen and heard is there's a lot of people who moved out of Springfield and they're coming back.
Yeah.
And my observation on what's opening up in Springfield, it's trendy places, it's quality food and drink. And so the market is here. People are really craving that kind of the big city things, but in the little city of Springfield, which is awesome. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we opened our brewery here, is because we could just see that shift in people just wanting craft and wanting quality. And I mean, from what the running joke is, Springfield's always 10 years behind. And I've seen a little bit of things being behind, but I also see a lot of innovation and a lot of, just new inspiration and new people coming in, or people like us, Curtis moved away to the city and then brought back, a big city, brewery type structure and brought it here, so that's kind of what's happening as people are moving away and they're coming back. And it is less expensive to live here.
It is. I mean, you see it, at least, we see it here. Catherine and I, my wife, and Jay, and I know his wife, Tanya, people are moving from California to Denver, which drives up prices here to live here, which means that people in Denver or Colorado Springs want to move further east, and you get to an Omaha or a Lincoln or to a Springfield, and even to, St. Louis is kind of in a lot of ways thriving now in ways that it wasn't not that long ago. So it's, I mean, it makes total sense, I guess. My point being that craft beer would follow everybody as we kind of move around and outside of these, massive sprawling cities. So we like beer,
right?
Obviously,
right.
So I guess, let's kind of talk brass tacks and business. What do you do in terms of packaging and distribution and all of that? Is Tie and Timber just a over-the-bar craft brewery, or are you on shelves? How does it work?
We are mostly over the bar, and we have, I want to say, about I think 10 accounts now.
Okay.
That we deliver kegs to, but we're keeping our distribution really small. It's a completely different model.
Okay. And
we just haven't been convinced yet that that's the road we want to go down. We're doing, sorry, it's a kitty.
No, you're good. We're like cats on here. We're good. Animals are good.
We're really focusing on investing in our property.
Okay.
And introducing new programs into the tap room. So for instance, we recently introduced our cocktail program.
Okay.
So we serve mostly local spirits. And we have, I believe, 5 cocktails on now. And then you can get mixers. So if you wanted a rum and Coke and, gin and soda, you can do that. But that's kind of one of our new things that we rolled out. One, to differentiate who, us as a brewery among the other breweries that are in town. And 2, that's just where we're bringing our focus, is just really on the properties that
makes total sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep cutting you off. How does that work with, I guess, what are the laws like in Missouri in terms of being able to serve liquor in a brewery? Is it hard to do that, or is that just beer and liquor the same, and wine? What are the laws?
Well, because breweries are fairly new, like a new model in Springfield, especially in the area we are in, we had to rezone. And with that rezoning, we were able to negotiate a liquor license that would include both the beer and the liquor.
Okay. Was that hard to do, or is that relatively easy?
Curtis did all the man hours on that, but it feels like it wasn't hard to do. It was education, and they wanted to work with us. The city wanted to work with us.
Yeah. I mean, it sure seems like in a lot of ways the same stuff is happening here with COVID-19 restrictions, where at the beginning the city was very kind of they were putting the hammer down on breweries, craft breweries in particular. But now, at least in the last 3 or 4 months, realized that, craft beer and craft distilling in this city matter a lot. And so being flexible and all that. So I guess I'd like to pick your brain a little bit about the state of Missouri and what's happened since March, if you're okay with that. I want to know, what were you told, I guess, in March, April, and what have you experienced since as a brewery, as somebody who's selling beer over the bar? I mean, has it been a struggle, I would assume?
Yeah, I mean, I think like everybody else, it has been a very dynamic environment since the pandemic, and I feel the city did a really good job keeping us informed. I mean, we all only knew what we knew, and Springfield shut down pretty early, and there wasn't. I mean, there wasn't very many cases at all. But again, I mean, everybody was kind of shutting down. We just didn't know what we were dealing with. But they've been really flexible and recognizing the differences in business models. And so it's been nice to be able to work with them. And, we're pretty, I want to say we're pretty strict with the guidelines. We covered our bar with plexiglass. So we have a big plexiglass sheet hanging there. Since the N95 masks became available again, we're requiring all of our employees to wear N95 masks. We've just been really stringent on the cleaning practices, and again, the beer garden saved us spring and summer because people could just be outside the whole time, and people wanted to get out and they wanted to be outside, and we were still able to have music events, but we had a capacity, so we had to keep an eye on our capacity. But
did you get much shit from people?
Did we get what?
You get much shit from people? I mean, not to.
We didn't.
You didn't? Okay.
I mean, there's always someone out there, but actually it seems people recognize that we were really being as safe and careful as we could, while also still trying to keep our business open. There's the extreme of shut down to we can be really careful and adhere to the guidelines and kind of even go beyond a bit and keep everybody safe, and that was our priority, was keeping our employees and our customers safe. And I feel that we did a pretty good job.
Were you able to keep kind of everybody on board? Did you have to make cuts? How did that happen? I mean, how did that all play out?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely people who were not comfortable being in the environment, and they did leave, which, it's not surprising, and I'm sure other companies went through the same thing, but for the most part, most of our employees did stay.
That's awesome.
And they're on board, and they worked hard, and they helped us develop a plan that helped them feel safe. And, we're always open to suggestions, and it was just a daily pivot early on of, we're going to try this plan out and see how this works, the flow of customers. For the first few months, we didn't even let anybody in the brewery. Wow. We allowed them to sit in the beer garden.
Yeah.
And then we served beer. We created a little bar where the garage door opened, and maintained that 6 feet. So yeah, I mean, it really was a daily changes and daily updates, and the staff, they're rock stars. I mean, it's been great that they did stand behind us and worked hard and got us through the pandemic.
I really can't imagine, Jen. I mean, that's, you hear it, we hear it every week from different folks who are dealing with different things. And so props to you guys for staying open. Let's talk something positive. What are you brewing now? Executive brewer, what are you making now that you're really excited about as we move into 2021? Are you trying new things? What are the plans?
So there's a couple things that I'm excited about. For New Year's Eve, we have a huge New Year's Eve bash, and it's shoulder to shoulder in the tap room, and everybody's having a great time, and we're doing beer leases, and it's great. But pandemic.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're still going to release beers, and it's going to be our barrel aged program.
Okay.
And I was thinking about this before our podcast, and I do think that all the barrels are from Lock and Co. For this round.
Okay.
You know, and again, just a shout out to him. I mean, if it weren't for Lock and Co, I mean, our barrel age program was able to start off really strong because he makes great whiskey. The barrels have been flavorful, and he's able to send them to us right away. And that's just been a great relationship.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about those coming out, and we even have a introduction to our Brettanomyces project.
Okay.
So we inoculated a few of the beers with Brettanomyces, and they're finally ready. Took a while, but they're finally ready. So we'll be releasing one of those. And then the other beer that'll come into 2021 is, I envisioned a white stout.
Okay.
Because I wanted to partner with Askenozis. They're the chocolatiers that are out here. Is that what we call them? Chocolatiers?
I think so.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Really, really high quality, fantastic chocolate. So I designed a recipe that was a white stout, and I thought with the cacao nibs, it would infuse that roasted flavor, which it did, but it also infused a lot of color.
Okay.
So it might be a golden stout now.
That's pretty rad, though.
That's what we're going to be releasing in January. I'm pretty excited about that.
What are plans for 2021 other than beer? I mean, is it just focusing on the tap room and your location? Is it expanding a little bit? What are you guys thinking in terms of moving forward? Like, what have you learned, I guess, from 2020 that you're going to take into 2021?
I mean, I think one of the biggest things we learned is, I mean, part of our growth plans we were exploring was, possibly maybe opening up another location, or, like you said, maybe distribution. I mean, we were kind of on the fence of what should we do next to grow?
Mm-hmm.
And the beer garden really just kind of proved to us how much value there is in continuing to invest in the property and the neighborhood we're in.
Yeah.
So we actually already started a project that'll be ready mid-January.
Okay.
And we're covering our entire patio. I don't know. I'm not good at numbers. I'm trying to remember how big it is.
When you say covering, what do you mean? Like putting a big awning on it, or what do you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now it's open. And again, this is a COVID project. In order to help us gain more space and also keep the outdoors, we're expanding our patio. It's going to have a roof on it. We're lining it with heaters, and then we'll have the wraps. So it'll be just nice and cozy, give us a little more space. And then the summer, the wraps can come down, and we'll have fans in there. So it'll just blow, circulate some air. One of the things we didn't realize, just being from Colorado and going to Colorado breweries, we're just trying to keep things simple.
Mm-hmm.
And you have that really nice, cool mountain breeze that, comes down, and you don't really have the need for too many days out of the year to just like need the shade and the air movement. But when you live in Springfield, where it's humid and you have no mountain crisp breeze, we're like, yep, we should do that covered patio and get the fans in there.
For sure. What, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I should say, so that really is the focus, is just to continue the growth in the beer garden and the tap room. And then eventually we'll start working on the plans for the building that now is our office. That's the building I'm in right now.
Okay. That sounds like a bright 2021. This is something we don't get to ask enough people. What makes a brewery like a Tie and Timber and so many of our friends out here in Colorado? What makes you not want to have a kitchen in-house? Like at what point, like what's the tipping point, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a business question. I mean, with you and Curtis, kind of, how do you have those conversations to say, here's where we go and we build a kitchen, or here's where we, until we get to that, we're not going to have one, or maybe we never have one? Because all the things you're saying about expansion, right? I mean, having a kitchen makes sense, but I also understand why you don't want a kitchen. So like,
right.
What's that decision making look like and sound like?
Well, when we first opened up, we just saw the models in Denver that worked without having a kitchen. And, we're like, well, we can rely on the food trucks. And and the food trucks, they did great for us. But then the cherry on top really was when the taco joint across the street opened up. But the direction that this street is going, this corridor is going, we do want to open a kitchen now, and that'll be probably a project for 2022. But we're going to start the planning in 2021, and that's going to be the office building is where we're going to put the kitchen.
Okay. So
but it is very valuable to have food on site, and we want to be able to add, food that's different. So we have tacos, we have Asian, we have some health food, maybe we'll do sliders, or maybe, we don't exactly know what we're going to do yet, but that's what we're planning on doing something here.
Are you, as honest as you can be, are you surprised by the success of Tie and Timber or your experience? Or is it better than what you'd expected, going back and looking back at the years that you two have put into this? I mean, what has been your digestive understanding of everything?
Yeah, I mean, I am a bit surprised at how quickly we grew.
Yeah.
And I'm also surprised and extremely thankful at how our customers in our community supported us through the pandemic. I really thought things were going to just really slow down for us for the pandemic. And we have been very fortunate that we've had a lot of support. And my brew schedule really didn't change that much from last summer than what it looked like this summer, which means we're selling a lot of beer still. But I mean, Curtis he's just a wizard at understanding business and understanding the market. And I feel like he's had a lot of confidence in it. And so his confidence brings me confidence. I'm always kind of the one that's like, are you sure about this?
Yeah.
And he's like, it'll be fine. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
It's a yin and yang thing. I totally understand.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You have to have it. Jen Leonard, where can we find Tie and Timber in terms of the socials, the website, all that stuff? Tell people where can we buy your shirts and your hats and all that stuff if we can't drink your beer?
Yeah, so if you just go to our Tie and Timber Facebook page, like if anybody wants merch, we're happy to send it out if you Facebook us. We don't have an online store because we're just not in the business of, I don't know who would keep an eye on it at this point, but we've sent things out for people who've specifically asked and messaged us. And of course, we're on Instagram, the TT Beer Co. on there. And, eventually maybe we'll make it on Twitter. And I don't know, this TikTok thing's kind of interesting.
I don't know about Twitter, managing and Rick's social media. Twitter I feel like it's for newsmakers and beer and craft spirits just don't have their place. I don't know. I try.
I know, I do too. I'm not sure about it. Curtis loves it. So I'm like, if there's people who are on there reading the news, it doesn't hurt every now and then for Tie and Timber. Hey, beer release, that's news.
Maybe we can come up with a new QAnon conspiracy, all of us, and we can really, it'll take off. You never know. But
you never know.
Yeah, you never know. All right, Jen Leonard, thank you so much for joining me and for having this conversation. You. I'm glad we finally got to do it. The next time we drive out to St. Louis, I think I'll probably need to throw in some barrels of Lock & Co. and maybe, make it a business trip so I can write it off for taxes.
Oh, yeah. That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, tell Curtis hello, and it was nice to talk to you, and have a wonderful evening and a Happy New Year.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye, Jen. Take care.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
When they come to take